Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 346. So, on the latest episode of Broken, we were introduced to another one of Jeffrey Epstein's recruiters. And in the article we're going to read today from the Daily Beast, it's a relatively long article, so I won't spend much time whinging here in my opening monologue, but the great Kate Bricklet from Daily Beast dives in and takes a look at the recruiter who was introduced on Tara Palmieri's podcast Broken on Wednesday. So, let's jump right into the article today and see what Kate has going for us. Headline: Epstein recruiter accused of S&M trysts. I'm a victim too. That seems to be the go-to excuse for all of these people who were involved with Epstein as far as recruiting, grooming, etc. How many times are we going to see these people say that they were victims too? I don't buy it. People who were victims of Jeffrey Epstein, in my opinion, were looking to get away from him. We're looking to put distance between themselves and Jeffrey Epstein. These weren't people who were there of their own accord when we're talking about the survivors. Whereas somebody like the lady we're going to talk about now, well, she was there on her own accord. So this article was authored by, as I said earlier, Kate Bricklet. When Marjik Chartouni found the woman who recruited her for Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago, she felt a sense of closure and relief. Here was someone who could confirm that the perverted financier, pedophile, sexually assaulted Chartouni not only because she was a witness, but because she participated in the disturbing encounter. So, again, you have to imagine what Marjik must have felt like, right? It must have been a good feeling to say, all right, here's somebody that can confirm what happened to me. Here's somebody that can put a line under this, and we can move forward, and maybe I can get some justice. Maybe I can get the justice that I've been denied and the justice that I deserve. But confronting the one-time friend, a New Jersey artist named Marina O, has brought up a mess of complicated feelings for Chartouni and fellow survivors of Epstein's trafficking ring. Virginia Roberts, who was kept as Epstein's teenage sex slave from 1999 to 2002, claims O abused her in New York. So again, if we're going to believe Virginia about the other stuff, then it would lead me to believe that, well, we would have to listen to what she says here as well, right? And as far as I'm concerned, I believe just about everything Virginia has said in this case, everything that's come out publicly. After she has said it, we have seen people come out and corroborate it, we have seen receipts, and we have seen nothing as far as evidence from the other side. So, as you all know, I am a follow the evidence guy, and the evidence tells me that Virginia Roberts has been truthful this whole time, and that the people that she has accused and the people that she has pointed her finger at are the ones that need to come out and provide evidence showing us that they're not guilty, because as of now, it does not look good for any of these accused. While Chartouni hasn't spoke to O directly, she gave journalist Tara Palmieri permission to contact her as part of the Broken Seeking Justice podcast. And look, I think that having the podcast Broken is a good thing. You know, a lot of times I'm very critical of the legacy media, and I feel like they deserve us to be critical of them and their behavior. But somebody like Tara Palmieri, who truly seems to care about what's going on here, somebody that the survivors trust, and somebody who has great resources and great reach, is nothing but a plus as far as this case goes. And I know my whole entire motivation has been to get the word out. So if somebody like Tara Palmieri, who is honest, who truly cares and really is seeking justice is going to take up the baton and really kick the door in, then I'll be behind her 100% and providing the same commentary that I always do. But it's nice to know that there are others out there with a lot more resources than yours truly that have started to take this case seriously and have started to really, kick in some doors and rattle some bushes, because for a long time, it seemed like there was just a few of us out here on the front line, battling away, trying to get the word out. And when we have reinforcements come riding in, such as Tara Palmieri, it's nothing but a positive, in my opinion, as far as moving the case along and moving it forward. Because people like Kate Bricklet, who we're reading here in this article, and Tara Palmieri, and several others have shown themselves to truly just care about justice in this case. It's not political. It's not about them building their profile. It's not any of that. It's simply about justice and making sure that the survivors are finally heard. And you know what? I think they should be commended for that. As the Daily Beast previously reported, Chartouni was a 20-year-old model in 2000 when a friend named Rena brought her to Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. During the visit, she says both Rena and the financier, pedophile, assaulted her. Chartouni didn't tell a soul about the encounter until after Epstein's arrest in July 2019. When she spoke to the FBI, she couldn't remember Rena's last name. Look, I don't blame her for not being able to remember. When you suffer trauma like this, that's part of it, right? A lot of times your brain, your subconscious mind will work to try and stuff those memories of trauma. Your brain will try and protect you. And then you have lapses in memory, you forget certain details. But I think that it just goes to show you that Miss Chartouni here waited all the way until Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, after he was arrested, to speak out on this. That goes to show you the effects it had on her life. That goes to show you how it affected everything that she had going on. She couldn't come forward until 2019 after his arrest. That's how much power Jeffrey Epstein wielded. That's how much influence this man had. And that's what makes this case so much different than all of the other cases. After some online sleuthing, Chartouni found Rena and worked with Palmieri to approach her. I put a name to a face after 20 years, Chartouni told us. That was enough for me. Chartouni added, I don't hold any ill will toward her, even though she recruited me. Forgiveness is very freeing. Look, that is such an admirable trait, and I've been working on that myself. Look, I'm Italian, right? It's in our blood to hold grudges and shit. But after the love of my life was diagnosed with breast cancer, and we went through a period where we really didn't know what was what, right? I didn't know what was up, what was down. I couldn't even catch my breath half the time. But it taught me to take every day and try and live that day to its fullest, right? Try not to be too depressed. Try not to let my anxiety, which I battle on a regular basis, folks. It's rough. Try not to let that get a hold of me and do its dirty work. And forgiveness is also something that I've learned throughout that time, because holding a grudge is a greater weight on you than it is on the other person. And I think that Miss Chartouni here, finding forgiveness and stating how freeing it is, I can totally relate to that as I try and, make myself a better person, because I am a very flawed individual. I am far from perfect. My life is filled with trial and error like everybody else's. But I think that when you try and work on yourself and you try and focus on things that you can fix, I think that's how you grow, and that's how you experience, personal growth. And I think that's what we're seeing with Miss Chartouni here, as she is willing to offer forgiveness to people who really, really upended her life. I think it's admirable, and I think it is very, very brave. O denies abusing Roberts, and in an interview with the Daily Beast, claims she recently realized she was a victim of Epstein's manipulation and abuse too. Look, see, this is where I get all kinds of bent, right? I don't think that people who were involved in this actual abuse are people that we can label as victims. Now, were they manipulated in some way? Maybe. I'm not a psychologist, right? I'm not going to sit here and act like I am. But what I will tell you is this. If they really were remorseful, if they really were sorry about what happened, why in the hell did Miss Chartouni have to chase her down? Why didn't this Miss O lady come forward on her own and tell the authorities what she knew, or at the very least approach the survivors' lawyers and try and get on record? You see, words are wind. Actions really tell the tale. I want to clear my name and come forward as a victim, O said. I think it's wrong to call someone like me a recruiter. I think there needs to be a different way to go about it. Really? Look, these girls are saying you recruited them. These girls are saying that you abused them. What should we call you, Miss O? You have not come forward on your own. If it wasn't for Tara Palmieri and her long reach and her numerous resources, you would have never went on record. You would have never came out on your own. And that, again, folks, is one of my biggest problems here. Why do we have to chase these people down? As good, decent human beings, don't you think these people would just come forward and say, hey, look, I was involved in this shit. I didn't commit any crimes, but I was there. I saw what was going on. But no, they don't do that because guess what? They were involved. Recruiters were bringing in dozens of people. I didn't do that. O added, saying she only brought 3 women to Epstein's Upper East Side home. Only 3, huh? So you only destroyed 3 women's lives. You only helped recruit 3 women into a sex trafficking ring. Don't you think you have to be accountable for that? At the very least, be willing to provide help to the investigators who were investigating the case? But no, you went about your life for 20 years, however long it was, doing whatever it is you wanted, living your high-profile life, I'm sure, hanging out with your buddies in so-called polite society, and your life was just peachy. Meanwhile, the girls that you abused and recruited, well, not so much for them. This week, Roberts took to Twitter to slam O as a deranged woman who was no victim and called for authorities to investigate her as a co-conspirator. Look, Virginia, she's not playing games anymore. She's playing for keeps, and every time one of these people tries to come out and situation themselves as some sort of victim of Epstein, people like Virginia are coming up to bat and smacking a homer and letting the rest of us know that this shit is BS. And if we're not going to listen to the actual girls who were involved, the actual survivors like Virginia and Miss Chartouni and Maria and Annie and Courtney, etc., then who in the hell are we supposed to listen to? The New York Times? Please. I skip the middleman if I can and go directly to the people who were involved. I don't want to play a game of telephone. I want the real story, the real facts, and the real scoop from the people who lived it. And who better to give us that, folks, than the survivors themselves? So I will always defer to what the survivors say here. Just like I would defer to a scientist when we're talking about astrophysics, okay? I don't know shit about astrophysics, just like I didn't live through this. So I think it's prudent, and I think it's a good idea to defer to the survivors when they're telling their story. She also railed against O's participation in the Survivor Compensation Fund. Rena, if you read this, I hope you live in shame for the rest of your life, Virginia wrote. You don't intimidate me any longer, and the physical and mental scars you left me with should be enough to put your ass in jail. And you know what, Virginia? You don't have to be scared of these people anymore. You're not alone anymore. It's not just your voice. There are legions of people who are willing to take up the baton and demand justice. And from where I'm sitting, as the narrator of this whole entire sordid affair, I say, Good for you, Virginia. Good for you taking a stand. Good for you not letting these people intimidate you anymore. And everybody who has an interest in this case and everybody who has been affected in this case owes people like Virginia and Maria and all of the other girls and ladies who have come forward and spoken out a huge debt. Society owes you all a huge debt, because without you coming forward and without you being this brave, none of this shit would have ever been brought to light. People like me would have never even known any of this stuff. I would have just kept going on about my life, thinking it was just another rich, sick bastard who, who got caught up molesting a couple of girls. That's basically what the legacy media gave us for years, right? Never dove deep, never scratched more than the surface, never had a nuanced conversation about it, and we never heard from any of these survivors. As more survivors and witnesses come forward, their stories highlight the difficulties prosecutors face in deciding whether to charge Epstein's alleged accomplices, who also identify as victims of Epstein themselves. Now, look, I'm sure that the prosecutors are prepared for this. I'm sure that they're well versed in this, and I am sure that they're going to be able to weed out the BS from the real. And the fact of the matter is, if you were around Jeffrey Epstein, you were part of the Core Four, you were one of these recruiters, and you didn't go to the police after Epstein was first arrested, and instead you hid under the non-prosecution agreement, why should anyone believe that you're innocent? And why should anyone believe that you're a victim? I certainly do not. Sarah Kellen and Nadia Marcinkova, two co-conspirators in Epstein's Florida case, broke their silence after his arrest to say, through spokespersons, that he sexually abused them for years. I don't buy it. Sorry, I don't buy it. Now, obviously, with Nadia, it's a little different. She was purchased by Epstein as a child. Of course, there's a different set of rules there, and a different eye I think we have to look at that through. But when we're talking about Sarah Kellen Vickers' evil ass, hell no. There is a jail cell with your name written all over it. And then your dorky ass, nerdy ass NASCAR husband can come and visit you the same way you and your friends visited Jeffrey Epstein. Boy, how the worm turns. These stories also reveal the gray areas of Epstein's sickening world and how survivors are sometimes divided on whether to accept certain adult recruiters as fellow victims. Victim's lawyer Brad Edwards, who represents Chartouni and multiple other victims, has also taken O as a client. He didn't return messages seeking comment. Wow, that's pretty disheartening, huh? That Brad Edwards would take O as a client. Bradley Edwards has been pretty solid throughout this whole entire thing and one of the, in my opinion, heroes of the case. So him taking O as a client is a little bit odd, in my opinion, and I guess we'll have to see a little bit more and hear a little bit more from Bradley Edwards, considering he didn't comment when the Daily Beast reached out to him. So we're going to have to keep our eye on that and see what's what. My line in the sand is, did you have the ability to get out? Roberts told the Daily Beast. If you did, why didn't you? Especially people like Rinna. She wanted to be there. She was complaining Epstein wouldn't take her places. That doesn't sound like a victim to me. And again, I'm going to defer to Virginia and her first-person testimony. I wasn't there. You weren't there. So we can speculate, or we can listen to the person who actually lived it. Me, I know which way I go, and I'm going to choose to listen to Virginia's side of the story. I would hope that Bradley Edwards would listen to these gals as well, but I don't know, man. This whole entire situation here with bringing on O as a client is a bit worrisome, honestly. In the latest episode of Broken, Seeking Justice podcast, O admits to delivering 3 young women to Epstein's New York mansion. I was in the room when Marajik and I were both victimized by Epstein, O told the podcast. She also confirmed she took a 17-year-old Robert shopping for a schoolgirl outfit on Epstein's orders. So, you take a little girl out shopping for a schoolgirl outfit, and you want me to believe That you're a victim? You were a grown-ass woman. What were you doing? Why are you being involved in taking a young Virginia to go get a schoolgirl's outfit on Jeffrey Epstein's orders? And yet you want us to believe you were a victim? Let's just end all of this shit right now and charge them all under RICO and let the courts figure it out. That's what the court is there for, right? Let's let the court figure this out, because I have to tell you folks, I'm not buying this whole victimhood card by these recruiters. Titled The Recruiters, the episode marked the first time O spoke publicly about Epstein or was even mentioned in connection to the wealthy sex offender. O claimed she didn't know Epstein was having sex with underage girls. Nah, they were just there for decoration. He just had them there as conversation starters, huh? Just centerpieces. What did you think they were there for, Miss O? Give me a break. Another person who will use plausible deniability and try and act like she had nothing to do with this shit. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying it. Obviously, I'll reserve my final judgment until I hear more. I follow the evidence, and if O has some evidence, cool. But from what we're seeing thus far, and being halfway through this article and hearing what Virginia has to say, how can I at all believe what Miss O is talking about here? She said her husband, Vincent Amon, an uncharged co-conspirator in the 2005 failed prosecution against Michael Jackson, who was charged with molesting a teenager cancer patient in California, encouraged her to defend her own reputation. Oh, I'm sure. So you see the seedy characters that are surrounding her, right? I mean, look, again, these people that are in this so-called polite society or on the outer rings of it, they all disgust me. And they all seem to be absolute liars. Amon lived on Jackson's Neverland Ranch and, according to court papers, was one of 5 associates accused in a conspiracy to hold the boy's family hostage so they'd create a video praising the pop star. Look, I don't know nowhere near enough about that Michael Jackson stuff to comment. Again, as you all know, this is my first dip into this kind of case. I've really focused on the Middle East before now, and I don't have enough information on the Michael Jackson case or the people involved to really offer up comment there. Palmieri, Broken's host, visited O at her New Jersey studio inside a former factory in an industrial wasteland. O showed off some paintings inspired by Epstein, including a portrait of Prince Andrew as Bacchus, the Roman god of wine, and Ghislaine Maxwell holding forbidden fruit. Yeah, I was a victim! I was a victim too! I don't believe it. It just doesn't look to me like O was any kind of victim. It sure looks like she was benefiting from her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. O's studio also contained a supersized print of the infamous photo of Prince Andrew clutching the bare waist of Roberts as Maxwell smiled in the background. Roberts claims she was forced to have sex with Andrew, who adamantly denies abusing her or any other young women in Epstein's trafficking ring. Asked why she printed the photograph, O replied, "I blew it up to show that he may not be wrong when he said that the picture was doctored. To me, as a painter and photographer, the lighting doesn't look right." Oh, God. Really? Oh, God. Bradley Edwards, my guy, you gotta take a step back here, I think. She's trying to say that she's blowing this picture up in defense of Prince Andrew. Is this one of those girls that had the hots for the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? Was she one of the girls provided for the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? This opens up a lot of questions here, folks. What's her fixation with Prince Uncle Touchy? O said she was studying at the School of Visual Arts when a friend introduced her to Epstein, who she hoped would become her patron. Epstein allegedly offered to pay for a few of her school credits, as well as gallery space in Soho. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're a real victim. You're a real victim. More like you were looking to find some old-ass dude to pay your way. And you found Jeffrey Epstein. And now, when all of the Jenga parts come tumbling down around you, You're trying to situate yourself as a victim. Well, it's not cutting the mustard yet, Miss O. You're going to need to do a lot better to convince us here on the Jeffrey Epstein Show that you were a victim and not a participant. The artist claims she believes she and Epstein were in a relationship. She considered him her older, rich boyfriend. Let's translate that. She thought he was her sugar daddy, okay? That was their relationship. Asked whether Epstein was also in a relationship with Roberts, O replied, "Oh, I'm not going to answer that. I just know she was around him a lot." So another person corroborating that Virginia was around a lot. Another person that is showing that Virginia, once again, is telling the truth. And at the same time, she's building Virginia's credibility while Virginia is looking at her and saying, "You are part of this." O again denied having any sexual contact with Roberts. I was nothing but nice to this girl," she said, after calling Roberts' accusation a complete fabricated lie. So, you would have us believe that Virginia is lying about you, some two-bit nobody. For what reason? Why would Virginia just make this up? And why would Miss Chartouni go along with it? Why would she make it up? It seems to me that Miss O is the one that has a problem with the truth here. For her part, Roberts told the podcast Epstein introduced her to O in New York and alleges that O was involved in abusing her during some S&M activity. Rena was willing to do whatever Epstein wanted, Roberts said, adding that O was upset Epstein didn't invite her to travel to the Caribbean with other young women he abused. Epstein cut O off from his circle sometime after Roberts informed him O wanted to join their entourage, Roberts said. "I never saw Rena again after that conversation," Roberts told the podcast. So that's kind of interesting. Epstein jettisoned her, and she wasn't around anymore after that. So it also goes to show you how interchangeable some of these low-level recruiters were. Jeffrey Epstein didn't have them in his confidence the same way he had somebody like, say, Sarah Kellen Vickers in his confidence. But these people were working as soldiers, basically, in this organization and doing the deeds that were passed down to them by their superiors, a.k.a. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the Core Four. O admitted that she took Robert shopping on St. Mark's Place for a sexy schoolgirl outfit after Epstein called her and said, "You would know where to go. Take her there." So basically, you're taking a girl who's underage to a sex shop or an S&M shop to get her an outfit so this sick bastard, prick, and son of a bitch Epstein can molest her in it. Boy, you really are a fantastic person, Miss O. Palmieri asked O whether she questioned why Epstein wanted then 17-year-old Roberts in a schoolgirl attire. O replied, "I wasn't asking any questions. I just did as I was told. You don't ask questions. You're not privy to ask. That's rude. You're dealing with a billionaire." Oh yeah, well, you know what? The Nazi prison guards at Auschwitz didn't ask any questions either. Guess what? They were still liable. At some point, you have to stand up and be a decent human and say, "I'm not doing this." And as far as him being a billionaire, who gives a shit? We need to get out of that mentality. These people put their socks on and their pants on the same way we do every single morning. So I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you're a trillionaire or a quadrillionaire. I don't give a shit. If you're involved in this sort of nonsense, then you must be held accountable. And I don't care that it hasn't happened before. I don't care that it's never happened before. From here on out, that party is changing, and it is time for all of us to come together with one voice and demand that these people be held to account. When Palmieri countered that Roberts was a child, O pushed back, 17 to me is not a child. 17 is a minor, and 17 is of legal age in New York State. Look, I don't even know what to say about all of that, right? I mean, wow. Roberts told the Daily Beast that hearing O's voice in Broken, seeking justice, re-traumatized her and brought up memories she'd long buried. I have a scar from her that's 6 inches long, Roberts said, alleging Epstein used O for S&M encounters, with O serving as the dominatrix, while Roberts played a submissive role. What an absolute horrible story to hear and think about. Imagine what Virginia has been through at the hands of these psychopath monsters. It was hard to go back down those memories, Roberts said. It's something I've shut out. When I heard her, the floodgates of hell opened up. I remember so much of what she made me do, how critical it was in shaping me as a young woman, not being able to trust other women, Roberts added. What Rinna did cannot be let go. The control she possessed over me, it wasn't just a cut. She demeaned me. Well, I'll tell you what, from where I'm sitting, and from what I'm hearing from Virginia, there's no way I'm going to consider Miss O as a victim of Epstein and place her in the survivor category. And furthermore, I will work against her getting a cut out of that compensation fund, because this is BS. This is straight garbage. You have one of the survivors, one of the most outspoken survivors, coming out and saying that this person not only recruited girls, but took part in her abuse, S&M, and all sorts of other wild shit that no 17-year-old, 16-year-old girl should ever have to be involved in. In response to Roberts' claims, O told us, I did not participate in any type of S&M activity with Virginia or anyone else in Epstein's orbit. If Virginia was abused in that manner, it was absolutely not with me. And you notice how she doesn't even show any remorse for what Virginia has went through. She won't even give any credibility to what Virginia is saying. And I think that is telling, and I think that should tell you everything you need to know about the character or lack of character that is possessed by Miss O. Meanwhile, as for Chartouni, O issued the following apology in the podcast. I'm sorry I did not know what was going to happen. If you had a bad experience, you know you had a bad experience. But I was not abusive. I'm not an abusive person. The narcissism is quite apparent. The me is quite apparent. And all of it sickens me, folks. I am tired of people like this. People with no self-awareness of their role in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit, of what role they played in causing so much trauma to so many girls and women. In an interview on Thursday, O told the Daily Beast she plans to contact the FBI about her experiences with Epstein. A mother of 2 young sons, O said she didn't realize she was a victim until after her interview with Palmieri. She also bashed Roberts for making up lies about me. Yeah, well, guess what? You've had all this time to come forward, and now all of a sudden when you're called out on broken, now you're a victim too? Now you're somebody who we should all have empathy for? I'm not buying it, and I don't care who is on that train. I am certainly not. I'm going to need proof, receipts, and corroborating witnesses. Besides that, and in lieu of that, you are not a victim. You are a recruiter, a co-conspirator, and somebody who should have a little taste of Rico. I was seeing a man named Jeffrey. To this day, I still believe I was in a relationship with him, O said. That's how much he victimized me. He made me believe we were in a relationship. It wasn't until I spent a week with Jeffrey and Ghislaine in Florida that I started seeing the scope of his manipulation. But yet, you waited until your interview with Tara Palmieri in 2020, huh? You waited until you were called on the carpet to come out. You would think that if she really had this breakthrough and she really had this epiphany when she was in Florida, that would have been the end of it. But no, it wasn't. She continued to ride the gravy train. She continued to receive money and favor from Jeffrey Epstein. And at the same time, how is she going to claim that she's a victim? The artist claims she spent a week with Epstein and Maxwell in Palm Beach, Florida in March 2001, along with another young woman in her 20s, and that the couple took her to Mar-a-Lago a few times. Looking back, O suspects the creepy duo were shopping her around to their rich friends. And no, if they were doing that, it would have been done. All right? They didn't go to Mar-a-Lago to shop you around. They shopped you around at the townhouse or at the island or at Zorro Ranch. This lady doesn't even have the basics correct. O said she was axed from Epstein's orbit after she refused to go to dinner with Maxwell, who allegedly wanted to introduce her to 3 very rich guys. That day, she says, Epstein brutalized her in a very sadistic manner. I was asked to go out to dinner with Ghislaine and I refused to go, O said. They cut me off when I said no. Well, again, if you were abused in a horrific manner, why didn't you come out all these years? Epstein was in jail. His whole entire enterprise has been shattered since his second arrest, and yet you have nothing to say until the Tara Palmieri interview, until you're called out on the carpet, and at the same time you're trying to throw shade at Virginia? Well, Miss O, I have some news for you. You're going to need to provide a lot more evidence, and you're going to need to provide some receipts if you think anybody is going to believe your story. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And to all of you who have donated on PayPal and through the GoFundMe, thank you very much. As for me, well, folks, I will be back later and we will pick this story up where we left off.